Hi everyone, welcome to today's workshop, which is all about Gen AI. So this workshop is split into four key components. The first part is really a two-parter. It starts off by focusing on use cases of AI and then going from there into the mechanisms of how it works. And through that, you get a good understanding of its strengths and its limitations. Then the workshop moves into the second part, which is all about the philosophies for AI use, and it really assesses the landscape of how in higher education, our regulator, which is TEXA, what they've recommended, what the government recommended, and also what different universities, their approach to adopting and using AI has been, and maybe a bit of a understanding of where that may track in the future. And then from there, we'll move into prompt engineering. This is really a fancy way of saying how you ask questions of the AI. And it's something that allows for the best output. So when you really master the skills of prompt engineering, you can get really good output in a short amount of time. And then from there, you can use everything you've learned to Gen AI test your assessments or work, or just use the skills to be able to use AI effectively. So really, this workshop assumes no prior knowledge. It goes in from the very foundational basics of where we started all the way through to an understanding of the mechanisms and prompt engineering and using it in action. So hopefully you find it useful and valuable, but it has something for everyone, no matter what stage of your journey in learning AI is. My name is Anandin Ambikaraja. I'm a lecturer here at the University of Canberra, and I'm a neuroscientist. So my research focuses on dementia and looking at risk factors that predict changes in the brain as people age, in addition to understanding how long it takes for people to obtain a dementia diagnosis. And so my journey into the AI space has been one that has evolved through a love of technology. So I regularly use tools like Git and R and statistics and neuroimaging software, all sorts of tools. And there's many of those that I've used for productivity. So what brought me to the AI journey when it started was initially an interest in what can it do, and then from there knowing how to utilize it in the best ways possible. And so that led to and also I of course teach and research at the University of Canberra, and I'm very passionate about teaching, and part of that journey led into an understanding of where AI's role fit within the university context. And so from there I realized that we needed to move a bit quicker in terms of adopting and understanding AI across the initially Faculty of Health, which is where I am within the University of Canberra, but it's turned into something much bigger across the university and many other universities as well, and even New South Wales Health I've been working with in this space. And it's really an understanding and interest of how can we use AI ethically? How can we use AI effectively? And essentially, when the AI journey started many years ago now, it was really a conversation in the higher education sector about how do we ensure the integrity of our assessments, which is still an important conversation that's going on. But there was an opportunity missed initially about how can we enhance our learning and teaching at utilizing these technologies. And so that's really where I developed the community of practice for the Faculty of Health, and that's become something that's been a real value to many people in learning many of the things you're going to learn today. So this workshop was designed in that context, and it's helped people from many different industries, and so I hope it's of help and use to you. Enough about me. You're actually going to hear a lot about me through many of the examples today, so I think we can leave it there. There's my website that you'll see on the slide there. So if you go navigate into the teaching, you can access all the lectures and slides from today's workshop materials. So I guess the first question is, how did we get here, right? So hopefully this looks familiar to you, but if not, that's completely fine. This is sort of the opening image of what you see when you log into ChatGPT. And ChatGPT launched in November of 2022. So, and it really took the world by storm. Now, AI has been around for many years in many different contexts. So, as I said, I'm in neuroscience and in neuroimaging. AI models have been used for predictions for many years in terms of conducting analysis on neuroimaging data. What changed in terms of 2022 and the launch of ChatGPT was the accessibility to AI. It became something that everyone could log into without technical expertise and start asking questions, and it would get a response, and you could use it for a whole host of different purposes, which we'll show you today. But I think that accessibility was really a key driver. And I think when you look at the statistics of the uptake of ChatGPT, I think in the first day it was like 1 million users and went to millions and millions more within the first week. I think the uptake was massive. And so that's really what changed in 2022. And what I wanted to focus on in this slide is really a historical account of where we are with AI. So ChatGPT, it's a generative artificial intelligence chatbot developed by OpenAI. So OpenAI is the company that owns and created ChatGPT. Launched in 30th of November 2022. It's a large language model, which we'll discuss in more detail later in the workshop. It initially used GPT 3.5 architecture and now uses GPT 5 architecture as of recording this video. I'm sure it'll continue updating, and we'll go into what that means later in the workshop as well. And in June of 2024, it announced a partnership with Apple. And really, I want to highlight the importance of that partnership, because if you have any Apple products, you'll have ChatGPT or AI embedded within it. And that's what we see across the industry and sector when it comes to the integration of AI within products. Now you can buy laptops and phones, and AI is sort of embedded within everything and all that technology. So hopefully very, very important to know how it works. But there's major competitors, right? And so OpenAI certainly was the first that launched successfully in the market, but it was soon followed by many others, including Gemini, which was formerly known as Google Bard, which is developed by Google, and then there was Claude, which is developed by Anthropic. So Anthropic, the founders of Anthropic actually previously worked for OpenAI, and then for a myriad of reasons, I think there were some differences in terms of their approach in thinking about AI and the ethics around AI. They decided to make Claude and branch off. And so that was an interesting story in itself. And Claude's available and widely used. Llama is developed by Meta AI. So if Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all of that is encapsulated within the metaverse. And so Meta AI uses this sort of data to train its models. And that's what's training Llama. So if you go into your WhatsApp messages, like if you go into your WhatsApp app and then you scroll to the very, very top of that, you should get something that says, what ask me anything. And so that is ask Meta AI or search. So I'll just show that to the camera there. So you see ask Meta AI or search. So if you type in there something, that will interact a conversation with Llama. And so that is by Meta AI and embedded there. Then there's Grok, which is Elon's AI, which is by X AI. And then we also have Perplexity, which is developed by Aravind Srinivas. And Perplexity differs from many of the other AIs in terms of its ability to reference the material where it comes from. It has, and some of the other AIs do it as well, but Perplexity prides itself in being a scholarly AI. So it's one in which it uses a lot of scholarly literature to inform the output. And we'll come into this in more detail when we talk about how these models are trained. And then there's DeepSeek, which is developed by Highflyer, and this is China's AI model, which took the world by storm because it had claimed that it was able to be used for operated and trained on with much less energy requirements than many of the other AIs. And this is a real challenge when it comes to the usage of AI. There's the training that's required has a real environmental impact, and even the usage of these models. So that's something we can discuss as well when it comes to the overall architecture of how these models are developed. And then Microsoft Copilot, of course, developed by Microsoft. So that's embedded within many organizations that have Microsoft there. So what's the point of this slide? Yes, it shows the history, but it shows you the major competitors. These are just a few of the main competitors. There's so many AIs that are being developed pretty much every day that there's even a website called There's an AI for that. And so everything you see in these slides, by the way, that's red is hyperlinked. So it'll take you to those sites. So if you click on those links on the slides, it'll take you to where you need to go. So I think what I want to emphasize through this slide is to show that AI is certainly something that exploded and is likely here to stay. And why is it likely here to stay? It's just because there seems to be a AI arms race where every major company is putting a lot of investment into the development of their AI, and they're all trying to outcompete one another in terms of the next innovation in there. And so it's certainly something that, if you think of the market share of many of the products or technological products that we utilize, many of these companies are the big hitters when it comes to that. So Microsoft, Google, Meta, X, all of them. And also there are people who are producing very good AIs that are not part of these major companies as well. And so doing what you're doing now and looking at a workshop like this is really valuable because it helps you understand how these AI models work. So in saying that, what can AI do? I'd encourage you to pause the video and then ask yourself that question. So assuming you paused and then you came back. So I'll get better at these transitions as we go, don't worry. Or maybe not. So what can it do? You can have a think as to what can it do, but rather than try to think of different examples, you may have said, oh, it can summarize material, or it can write essays for you, or it can do some fun things as well. We can just ask it, right? So what I think you should do is actually go into one of these tools, ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, and ask it the question of what can it do. And so I'd encourage you, again, pause the video, ask yourself, wait, don't pause right now, but what would be a good prompt? Ask yourself that question, then you can pause the video and do that. And so if you've had that, you could say something like, what can it do? Sorry, this odd line, pausing and not pausing. Usually I have people put their hands up and we have an interaction. So that's what I'm trying to do here. We'll see how successful that is. But what would be a good prompt? You can ask it something like, what can it do? So I'm hoping you're giving it a go and typing in. One thing I want to highlight and showcase here. So I've got a whole bunch of, let me just minimize there. Okay, so this is sort of what Microsoft Copilot would look like if you log in. You can just type in Microsoft Copilot, and here's ChatGPT. So they all have a similar sort of opening where you have an opportunity to write in your prompt here. One thing I want to note with Microsoft Copilot is that if you're in a university environment and your university has an institutional license to Copilot, if you go in the top right, and you have a green tick there, that means you're within the university's environment. And we'll talk about this more when we talk about privacy. But if you don't have a green tick, you're outside of the university's environment. So you're just using the software as with any other software. And we'll explain what this means in terms of the protection of your data. Similarly with ChatGPT, if your university has a license, you may have something similar, but if it doesn't have a license, which ours currently does not, you can turn on temporary chat as well, which means your chat won't appear in your history and won't be used to train our model. So that's another something you can do to ensure that your data is not being used to train the model. So that's a limited protection. So have a go at typing in what prompt. I've, of course, already done that, and in terms of, I'm a bit lazy in terms of thinking about what a good prompt would be. So I just asked the AI, I said, hey, could you tell me what you think a good prompt would be to write me a good prompt to find the answer to what you do? And it responded here's a good prompt to find a comprehensive answer to what I can do. And here's the prompt. And so it gave list all the capabilities and features of ChatGPT, provide a detailed breakdown of tasks ChatGPT can assist with, including specific categories like information retrieval, writing assistance, coding support, data analysis, image generation, personal planning, and more. Explain how ChatGPT can be used for educational purposes, creative content creation, professional development, everyday tasks, highlight unique ways ChatGPT can be customized to suit different user needs. So if you click here, there's a way to actually share chats. So I've done that, and I've shared that chat there. So let me go into here. And so that's the prompt that it created for me, which I copied there. And here's what it returned for me. And so what I want you to do is actually compare the quality of what it was returned to you versus what you see with this prompt. And it says ChatGPT is a versatile tool, range of tasks, and it gives me a breakdown based on each of the different categories. So it says information retrieval, writing assistance, coding support, and talks about all the different things it does there. Data analysis, image generation, education support. It can help with tutoring and homework, lesson planning, test preparation, professional development, writing cover letters and resumes, creative content like music and script writing, everyday tasks for personal planning, customization, personalization. You can use it as a personal assistant, and unique applications for education, creative content, everyday productivity. And you can customize it with instructions, domain specific knowledge, and profile personalization. So it can remember details about you and provide you with more relevant information. So that's really a breakdown of what it can do, and hopefully through that interaction you realize that it's quite, you can have something like this where it's the prompt provided by AI. So you can always ask AI, hey, can you help me if you don't know what to do? Or you can just ask it a simple question like, what can you do? And you get something quite useful in response. So that is what it can do. And we're going to really, the reason I brushed over all of that is because we're going to go into a deep dive of much of that right now. If you want to know how to share a link from ChatGPT, just click on this link. It'll give you instructions as to how you can actually share links with ChatGPT. Now, as time has gone on, it's become even easier to interact with ChatGPT. It can be even more fluid with voice mode, and not just ChatGPT. Any of these AI models, many of them have voice mode available. So here is ChatGPT, and all you need to do is click this, which is use voice mode. I say, hi, are you listening to me?
I hear you loud and clear. Let's dive in. What's on your mind?
Great. I'm teaching a workshop right now about generative AI. Do you have anything interesting or fun to add to the workshop?
You could show how generative AI creates variations on a theme, like giving it a simple concept, say a futuristic chair, and seeing wildly different outputs. You could also challenge the group to identify where the AI might be biased or making assumptions, kind of a mini critical thinking exercise.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And you know what? I'm actually teaching a statistics lecture next week, and I want to teach students about the difference between standard errors and standard deviations. Can you put a simple explanation of what that is, and maybe give me an example to use?
Sure. Standard deviation measures how spread out data points are in a population. Think of it as describing the variability of all the data. Standard error, on the other hand, tells you how precise your sample mean is when you're trying to estimate the true
Cool. Can you give
population mean.
me, I think I have a good sense of that. Can you give me a nice, fun example that's humorous and engaging for students?
Imagine you're taste testing pizza slices across a whole city. Standard deviation is like saying, wow, the pizza quality is all over the place. Some amazing, some terrible. Standard error is like saying, we only tried 5 slices, so how confident are we that the city's pizza average is actually good? In other words, if you only tried slices from one block, your standard error might be huge. You may just be in the pizza paradise or pizza disaster zone.
Thanks. And so that's fluid mode, right? And in this essence, you have a very natural conversation. Hopefully, I could demonstrate there for you. And sorry for the mini statistics interlude there. I teach third year statistics and I'm very passionate about it. So it's a topic on my mind, and I'm teaching next week. But what I think is the value here is to see that it records, that it transcribes that whole chat. So you can have a conversation with it, transcribe it. It keeps a record of that conversation for you to go back into within your chat history, which you can open up with the sidebar and then see it in your chats here underneath in that sidebar. So a really useful way to use AI really naturally and fluidly. I've used this so much because I play around with these systems a lot that I've actually worked out there's a limit to how much you can use voice mode. It's about an hour a day. So that's the limit for voice mode. So I've tapped that out in the past, just doing all sorts of different fun activities. So I think that's a really interesting feature of AI, and I think it shows how it's becoming more natural to use the technology over time. And yeah, what could it do? It could really do anything, right? So this is an example of how I've used AI to just learn something. So I was golfing and I had balls just falling out of my pocket, and I realized that I had this massive hole in my pocket, and I don't know really how to. I didn't know how to stitch, and so I went to my wife and I said, "Hey, could you help me stitch?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Look, this is how you need to do. You just loop and you go back over it and you loop and loop and loop." And I have a theory that the people who love you the most sometimes struggle with teaching you how to learn certain skills. I've got another example of my mum. When I was younger, I wanted to learn how to cook traditional Sri Lankan Tamil food. And she's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come, I'll teach you, I'll teach you." And I realized very quickly that it was not something I could learn from her, because she would just, throw things into the pan. I'd be like, "What's in there? What did you put in there?" And she's like, "Oh, that's coriander seeds." I was like, "How much?" And she's just like, puts it in her hand, and be like, "Well, this much. That's how much I put in." I was like, I need some quantifiable measurement here to go. And then she'd do things like throw stuff in the pan and not even tell me. And I said, "What was that?" She's like, "That's ginger and garlic." And I said, "Well, you need to tell me." And she's like, "But you add ginger and garlic and everything. Of course you know that." So I actually went to her sister, learn how to cook food from her, and then once I had like sort of a base understanding, I went to her and learned more of the dishes. And in a similar way, I went to my wife and I asked her how to sew this hole in my pocket, and she told me how to do it. And I was doing it, and she couldn't understand that it didn't work as I was doing it. Like I just kept looping over itself. I said, "Yeah, this is not working. Let me turn to AI for some help." So I did. I asked AI a key question, and here's the chat that you can have a look into, where I said, "Can you imagine you're an expert sewing instructor and you're teaching me, someone with no sewing experience, how to hand sew a rip in my short pocket?" And it says, "Yeah, here's a simple step-by-step way of how to do it. Here's what you'll need. Here's the steps to repair the rip. You thread the needle, prepare the rip, start stitching, continue across the rip, finish the stitch, test the repair, and at the end of it, I got something that I thought was pretty good, right? So I think what I want to emphasize here is I was someone who prior to this did not know how to stitch a hole, and using AI, I was able to learn. And this is what I think is the real beauty of AI. It can be a tool to help you learn new skills, to help support you in real time. And also for something like this, you could use more voice mode, right? There's many times I've been fixing something and you used to like either look at a video where you're fixing something or you're trying to make something, and now you can just speak to AI naturally. Say, "Oh, I'm here. I'm doing this and this issue is occurring. What can I do?" So you get this personalized help, which can be really powerful, considering it within the context of its limitations, which we'll talk about in a moment. One thing to note in the back of your minds is when I'm using voice mode, or when anyone's using voice mode, it actually uses an older version of it. I think I mentioned the architecture 3.5 and 5 and 4. They're all different versions of it. And for voice mode to provide you with that quick, rapid response, it uses older versions. So quality of responses may not be as accurate if you were to get a written version using the most recent model, but it's the trade-offs for functionality and usage. So I think this is an amazing part of AI, which is why I wanted to showcase it, that you can use it to learn anything really. So here's the section where I wanted to show you a whole bunch of demonstrations of what it can do. And again, everything's in red because they're all examples. Sorry, these are the slides. I write the slides in R Markdown, so that's how you can see there. So what I'm going to pull up for you now is all of the different examples and use cases. We'll start with an example of it being used in quizzes. So here's a little TikTok videos of it being used. It's sort of beyond my remit to explain what TikTok is. They're essentially short form videos to entertain people, and in some cases, how to cheat in quizzes. So here's an example of
Pod
one.
the whole class is about to take a quiz and I'm on question 15. Before they even start.
All right, before we start,
So this is the tool where
the goal is
they're able to
Pod the whole class.
So from what was happening, they're able to just screenshot questions and the answer comes up. And so
Is about to take a quiz and I'm on question 15.
Areas,
Before they
the
even start.
all right, before we start,
and so this is using Canvas as the learning management tool, which I think many universities use, but not all, but there's extensions abound. This is just one example. And this TikTok video is actually made by the company Answers AI. So that's that. Here's another company called a Canvas Wizard, which is a Chrome extension that you can use to answer, and it has similar functionality. Here's another one called Quiz AI, or Quizmate, sorry, which does the similar function as Answers AI. And here's what Answers AI looks like. And so why I'm showing you this is I think when AI first emerged, people had some beliefs that really quizzes could still have a place in the classroom, and they can when they're invigilated in person, and you can assure that learning. But when it's happening online, what I want to emphasize is that there's no real assurance that the student is actually completing that quiz without the aid of AI. I mean, even if it's not AI here, if it's not proctored in a way where you can see what the student is doing, then they could easily be using voice mode on ChatGPT or Copilot and asking it the questions and getting a response. So it's really not an assessment which is termed as secure. We'll talk about a lot more in terms of philosophies of AI use, but just something I want to emphasize for those who haven't seen that before. Next one is an essays. So that's an example of how AI is used for generation of essays. It's quite simple. And here's an example of how it can be improved with a bit more additional prompting.
Stanford, and every single one of my essays has been written by AI. This custom prompt behind me is the key to not getting picked up by AI detectors. It uses basic instructions like use plain direct language and do not use metaphors or cliches. It even includes an important reminder at the bottom saying review your response and ensure that there are no M dashes. It's ultimately what gets my AI outputs from looking like this, where there are a bunch of emojis, to something like this, something that's a lot more clear, a lot more concise, and a lot more human. And if you guys don't believe me, I'm going to be using this prompt for my comparative literature midterm at Stanford. Specifically, I'm using a tool called Gizmo, which is basically an AI study tool. I gave it the prompt. It summarized everything that I wanted in the essay, and I eventually told it to just write it, and it did, sounding exactly like a normal human would. The reason why I use something like Gizmo instead of ChatGPT is because it was intended to teach people, so it's a lot more informative. But I ended up submitting this essay and getting an 18 out of 20, which is a 90%, not bad for something that took about 10 minutes of work. If you want the prompt, comment prompt down below and I'll DM it to you. I'm a senior at Stanford and
So that's another example of how it could be used with a little bit more effort, granted 10 minutes of worth of effort, but a little bit more effort to get a lot better results. And this is where a form of prompt engineering in some ways, which many students understand and are learning. Another common change that's occurred in higher education is people have said, well, we can always understand whether something's been using AI based on how it's written. If there's lots of M dashes in it, or if the text has certain usage of certain words. But here's another example of how that has been circumvented through the use of AI.
ChatGPT, you need to humanize the writing first. Here's a secret hack how to do that. Step 1, visit humbot.ai. Is a tool that takes any AI generated text and humanizes it so you can't detect it was written by ChatGPT. Step number 2, paste your content, click detect, and see what the results are from all major detection apps. Step 3, click humanize, and Humbot does all the work for you. Step 4, grab the results from Humbot and paste it into a detector like Originality AI just to see how well it did. Don't copy and paste from ChatGPT.
So there's the way to humanize your essays, so to make it less AI and sort of prevent the detection tools from actually understanding whether it's AI or not. These detection tools have limitations in themselves, but this is just another way that makes it even more challenging for them. Here's an example of how to get real sources from AI essays.
Essays. No sources.
Speak up when I hop about to cut, I promise.
Cactus AI has you
when I
covered.
hop about to cut, I promise I'm gonna make a scene. Got lights, cameras, action, but I promise that I won't be seen. She told me that she loved me, but I knew that make believe. But this ain't even about it, so let me catch you up to speed. Red target, slaying demons. I be quick to put them on that red carpet. TMZ 'em. I could get them taken after.
How to get real sources.
And so that's another way. So you can use AI to generate the text and then have the other AI to embed sources within it. These are just a few examples. Like I said, there's hundreds of AIs that all do similar functions with slightly different functionality and use cases and costs as well, right? So this is there are many different implications in terms of this. Of course, whether the student's learning what they need to learn for the unit, but in addition to that, the equity barriers across different students, what's available for free on certain AIs versus the quality of what you get through paid versions and what students have access to. It sort of becomes a pool where people feel like they're at a disadvantage now if they're not using AI and if it's not enabled to be able to use. Here's ways in which AI can be used in sort of a more informative manner to help with learning. So that's a way where students are able to use the lecture notes and materials to condense it into some study notes and also ask themselves some questions. So I think that's really great. Again, another ethical consideration is the intellectual property of that. In our university, all academics, the work that we generate is the intellectual property of the university. And so when it comes to generating teaching materials and when it comes to for courses and for units, the context is, well, if that's being used and uploaded by AI, is there a breach of intellectual property that's occurring there? So this is an example in terms of it can be used for a lot of utility and use and help students with their learning, but there's also ethical implications and also it may be at odds in terms of policy and regulation across universities. Let me show you some more lighthearted, fun examples. This is Udio. Udio is a way in which you can create music just using a prompt in AI. So we can create a song. I'd love to create a song about maybe, I don't know, eating pizza. So because it's getting close to lunchtime and pizza sounds like a good idea. So can you write a song about eating pizza which is in the style of a I'm thinking 50s blues type. Okay, let's try something like that. Now this is just this very simple prompt, and it'll create some music for me. I could have written custom lyrics here, and this is Udio. So UDIO. This is the free version that you can use and utilize. I'll have it auto-generate lyrics for me. and you can upload audio as well for it to use. But I'm just going to put in that prompt, that simple prompt, create a song, and in real time, what it's going to be doing is using that prompt and generating not only the song, but it also generates some artwork associated with the song and the style of it. So here, and also the name of the song. So here's what we see here in these top right of two songs being generated. One's jazz, one's blues. One's called Pizza My Love, and the other is Just Me and My Slice, which I'm looking forward to. And it'll generate the artwork as well. And I think it's important to see just how quickly this is occurring. So just in that time, it's now done. So it's ready to go. So here is Just Me and My Slice.
When that pizza calling, I just can't resist. Now that slice or two, it's particularly. Got my favorite topping stacked up real nice. But that cheesy goodness is worth the price. Ooh, just losing that cheese in my slice. Sing bites of that pizza over the night.
Nice. I didn't mind that one, actually. That was pretty good. So that's Just Me and My Slice. And this one is Pizza My Love.
Somewhere down the block, there's a pizza place. I can smell that dough. It's a heavenly race. Toppings stacked high, cheese pulling away. Slice after slice, I could eat it all day. Pizza, my love, oh, you fit me just right.
That's pretty cool. It worked out pretty nicely. Those are just two examples. And because it's the free version, it only gives you 30 seconds. But if you had the paid version, you can get longer and more customization. One thing, all well and good. I think what's interesting to note at this stage, even before we go into how these models are trained, is understanding that there is this unspoken thing that's occurred where a lot of these models are trained on data, and that data, the copyright of it is not clear as to whether it's actually been permitted for use in training these models, or whether because they're scraping so much data from the internet, it's not permitted. And I think that has real implications for creatives where it comes into the use of their song or music or lyrics and the style of voices. If I said, create something in the style of Ed Sheeran or Taylor Swift, it's likely using music that's created by those artists, and they're not necessarily acknowledged, or there's no royalty that comes to them in the use of this. And so that has really serious implications when it comes to the use of AI, but particularly when it comes into music and video. There's been video generations which show that quite concretely that these AI are trained on movies that they don't have license to use, because the AI has been able to generate the exact scene and image from a movie based on a prompt of creating this scene. But in terms of its accessibility and what it allows an individual to do, it's amazing, because for me to have generated that in the context of 2 minutes to generate a 30-second song that could be used in movies, and maybe I didn't have the capacity or ability to be able to develop something like that, or access to resources. See, there's this dynamic nature of the pros and cons. I think certainly the cons are the ethical discussion that needs to occur in terms of licensing and agreements, but the pro is certainly the access to what someone is able to do in terms of the use of AI for music. So that's incredible. Another good example in terms of ethics is this one. Have you ever heard of Velvet Sundown? They are a band which blew up on Spotify. Were very, very popular. And then they were just putting out music after music after music, a lot of albums, and people were wondering, who are these people? And they released some photos of them. And then after 6 months, firstly, let me show you this song before I tell you. But here's Dust on the Wind.
dust on the wind, boots on the ground, smoke in the sky, no peace found. Rivers run red, the drums roll slow. Tell me, brother, where do we go? Raise your hand, don't look away. Sing out loud, make them pay. March for peace, not for pride. Let that flag turn with the tide.
I've listened to this song many times. I really enjoy it. I think it's great. And as you've probably gotten on to at this moment, is that it's AI generated. And so again, ethical implications of this, the voice that was used, that was generated from what voices and who was paid in those royalties and what data was that trained on. But also, you make money from the number of listens you earn on Spotify. So someone's generated music using AI and they're earning money. What are the ethical implications of that as well? So a lot of different things raised in this use case. 4 million listens. I'm about probably the 60,000 mark for this song. I really do like this song. The more I listen to it, the more it sticks in my mind. It's just really enjoyable. And you may disagree, which is completely fine, but I think it does highlight the capacity of what AI can do in terms of these creatives and creative industries in terms of generation of music. And so this is probably someone with a paid version of software like Udio that was able to develop these sort of albums. And you know, still the monthly listens, it's decreased, I think, as more people are made aware that this band is completely AI generated. But it was initially very, very high when it was when this took off at the start. So that is the use of AI for music. Another example that we have here is Gamma. So Gamma is, if you've ever generated, if you're ever generating presentations or slides, that's, you know how tough it can be to stare at the blank piece of paper and start generating material. And so what I'm going to show you is ways in which you can have slides generated for you. So here I'm going to click generate. So that's that. I'm going to create a presentation of 10 cards in length, seems about right. I mean, and then you can see these ones are if you have the paid version. And then I'll have classic sounds good, default. So you have different customizations. I can give it a prompt. So I'll say I am teaching a third-year statistics class about survey research and design. Make me some lecture slides. Cool. And then generate outline. And so it's a pretty awful prompt. I haven't told it, apart from the title of the course for that unit, I've not really told it what content I'm covering and whatnot. You can give it a lot more detail if you like. And it's created an outline of it, right? So it's created different structure of the slide text, about what is survey research, types of survey design, sampling strategies, ethical considerations, analyzing data, and why it matters. So that's a pretty good overview given how terrible the prompt is, right? And that's sort of intentionally done, I'll say intentionally done, to show you how much it can fill in the gaps when you're writing a prompt. So that's just the outline, and then you can set generate, and it'll generate you the images. So you have the option, oh, let me go back actually, because I didn't show this thing. So you can customize it to the slide, to the style that you like. So you can have minimal text on your slides, concise, detailed, or extensive. I typically have extensive detail on my slides. You can have a different format that you want to put in. Put in images. Do you want to use stock photos or web images or AI images? I'm going to generate AI images, and then therefore the attribution, you just attribute to the AI that you use to generate it. and you can select the model that you use. And here's the type of image that you can have. So you can have abstract, line art, photo, or illustration. I'm going to go line art, just see how that goes. And you can go optional keywords. Okay, now I'll generate it based on that. So you can give it your sort of slide deck of the style that you want, how much content in each of the slides. And so here's how it looks. Here are the slides for survey research and design. Here's the images that are there. And it'll use that outline that it generated to create each of these slides. And so this is with a very, very short prompt as well. And so you can just imagine what would happen if you were to give it a lot more detail in the prompt, maybe even give it your lecture materials and see what it can generate from there. And so because I've asked for 10 slides, it's going to create those 10 slides for me. And the very cool thing about this, as it's generating, is that all of this is editable. So it's not like you have this slide deck that you can't touch or edit. You can actually go in the top right here, I think, and is it top right? Oh no, it might be here. It's in that arrow, and somewhere here is a download button. Export. So you'd use export it to PowerPoint, and then you can use what you like and put in your own content and build from there. Wow, really taken to heart the detail slides. That is a lot of detail. Boom, there you go. Like in the space of 2 minutes, it's generated pretty much everything you need to see when it comes to generating the slides. Oh, the last one, ethics. Oh, it's on 8. And so really what I want to emphasize here is the challenge with anyone who's writing lectures. I mean, these lectures I wrote are 90 plus slides. All of that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and in some ways, if you're generating a presentation, this can be a way to mitigate a lot of that opening effort and that you invest in creating that slide deck, creating the formatting. You can give it a certain font so it uses certain colors. And so that's how you can generate something that works for you. And so there you go. There's the slide deck of it all. I'm going to go into present mode now. And here is my lecture on survey research and design, foundations for statistical inquiry. You can go into, can I move left and right? Do I use, here we go. Yeah. So what is survey research? Gives me a different breakdown of that. Types of survey designs, cross-sectional, longitudinal. It gives me breakdown on crafting essay, effective survey questions, sampling strategies. So I would say really nice slides, right? Probably better than the stuff that I create in terms of structure and formatting. But it took no time, right? In terms of generating. So that's a real useful tool. So that's called Gamma, that you can investigate and explore. The other tool I want to show you is Notebook LM. So this is Notebook LM. It's used by a lot of academics, which allows you to create a notebook. So you can embed sources. So we can look up sources. I'm going to pull this to the end here. So we can look up sources about something that we want to learn. So I can say, hey, I want to learn a bit about Bayesian statistics. And so let me search the web, or you can just add sources. And so you can drop files in here, upload files, websites, and things from that relate to the topic of interest. Often I use Wikipedia pages are very useful because it gives it a lot of context. You can put in publicly available papers. Again, the ethical consideration comes up in terms of there are licensing agreements with papers that are published. So if they're not openly available or accessible by a certain license of Creative Commons, then should it be used in these ways, and do these tools already have access to many of that data? And so you can embed those sources and then essentially create whatever you'd like. So an example I'm going to do here is I'll do one on Bayesian statistics. So let's go into Wikipedia and get this, and we'll pop it in here. So I'll add a source, and I can add a website link. So I'm going to insert that link, and we can see what else is available in terms of Bayesian statistics. Let's see. Look, I think we'll leave it there for the Wikipedia page, and it has we can generate notes. So from here we can have it create a note for us, right? So you can start prompting it in terms of create a summary to explain the fundamentals of Bayesian statistics, and it'll scan all the text from the sources that are there, and it's gonna create you the summary, right, based on that. So it makes it a bit more accessible and easier, right? Much less to read than a full Wikipedia page. Gives you Bayes' theorem, priors, likelihood, posterior, and the parameters that are there, right? So the very, very cool thing about this is that you can actually use audio overview, and you can generate a podcast based on this, right? So this is now working to generate a podcast based on this. You can create flashcards, quiz material, so all sorts of different things you can do based on this. Now, in terms of the podcast aspects of things, so I have my own podcast called Midnight Conversations, and we did this podcast essentially covers research and tries to make it accessible to the public. So this is where we get a research paper, we discuss the findings, we discuss what it means and the strengths and limitations in a sort of easy to listen to, engageable, understandable way. So we did one on the science of parental technology use, which was a paper that was done that looked at when parents use their phone, what is the impact on their children, as a systematic review and meta-analysis. And then we used AI to create a AI version of this. And so we did the next episode using these AI people as the actors. And so here's
get to a roundabout when we regroup.
See you guys in a bit.
Like.
I was at the grocery store just the other day, and I saw this young parent in the checkout line. Their toddler was in the cart, babbling away, pointing at some shiny cereal box. And the parent, head down, completely glued to their phone. The kid kept trying, like looking up, making little noises, but nothing. And it struck me because, well, it's not unusual anymore, is it? We see it everywhere, parks, restaurants, maybe even, in our own homes sometimes. So let's really dig into this. In today's deep dive, we're tackling something that's become so normal, it's almost invisible. Parents using technology when their kids are right there. You might have heard it called technoference or maybe even phubbing. That's phone snubbing. It's a thing. And to really get a handle on the impact, we're focusing on this huge new systematic review and meta-analysis. This wasn't just like one study. It's a massive piece of work published in JAMA Pediatrics just this past May. It pulls together findings from loads of studies to give us a much bigger picture. Our mission today, really, is to explore what this deep research dive covering nearly 15,000 participants across 10 countries tells us. Specifically, how parental screen habits might be shaping the health, the development of our very youngest kids. We're talking birth up to about 5 years old. What can we actually learn from looking at it all together like this? Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's start with the basics. So parental technology use, or PTU as they call it in the paper, it's basically just any time a parent is using a phone, tablet, computer, whatever, when their child is present.
Right, so all of that is AI, and I think it's incredible, right? In some ways, what I wanted to do with this episode was show the difference. And so if you're interested, you can go back and you can listen to the version Steve and I do and the version AI does, and you can see the differences and nuances between both of those versions. And I think things like that give you a good sense of AI's strengths and limitations and how it can be utilized in different ways. But a very uh, dynamic conversation between two people that are generated. I thought this comment by a listener was interesting, who said that the individual voices sounded real. But they would stumble, talk quicker and slower. So those are all things that are refined and will be improved as time goes on. But the key thing is the chemistry between the people, and I think that is something that may improve as time goes on in terms of how these people interact with one another with the notes. So it does take a while. So we'll come back to this note generation for the Bayesian statistics, but you can see that it's similar to what we saw there. And so that's the parental technology use. Adobe Firefly can be used for creating images, and UC is Adobe Creative Campus, so we can use it there. There's lots of capacity for it in learning and teaching. So the next example here is about Gradescope, which is more just showing how it can be embedded within Canvas sites to help with grading assessments. So it can help with efficiencies. And the idea is that a teacher would use AI such as Gradescope to mark the assessment and then review what the AI has provided and add value to that. And then from there, provide that feedback to the student. And so that would improve the time that it takes for students to receive quality feedback. Again, ethical considerations regarding whether students allow for their material to be used by AI in this way. In some ways, you have students who are using AI to create an assessment, and you have teachers who are using AI to mark the assessment. It sort of breeds into where is the human fitting in this role, and is it something that adds value, or does it take away from the experience of learning, are questions that need to be asked. And also the teacher's understanding of each individual student. But there's lots of pros as well. And so here is an example developed by Sydney University, who have really been leaders in this space when it comes to generating an understanding of positions for AI use, but also actual tools. And here's one of this is Cogniti that they've developed. And Cogniti is an example where you see in the marking example, you can actually feed it a whole bunch of essays that have been marked previously, so it can mark in your style. And so here's an example of how Cogniti could work in that effect.
Prompts that they themselves have found useful. And some of these prompts are aligned to our assessment menu in terms of how students can use AI for learning and also for assessment purposes. There are examples of prompts and also examples of how these prompts might be used to support learning. And just one last example to finish this video up. As part of the assessment menu, one of the options is using AI to give feedback. Now imagine if you were able to build one of these AIs yourself to take control and steer the behavior and knowledge of these powerful AIs. What you see on the screen is a platform we've developed at Sydney called Cogniti, and this is an educator typing in some instructions to give to this particular AI, giving it some information about their assignment, information about things they've told students in class, the rubric that is used to assess the assessment, and also some rules that the AI needs to abide by. Once this custom AI has been built, students can interact with it via Canvas, as you're seeing on the screen here, and put their assessments into this before they submit to us. And the AI can give them some feedback, and also they can have a conversation with the AI to try and dig a bit deeper into what they don't understand. They could even try to get the AI to rewrite the assessment for them, but because this AI has been built by us and controlled by us, we've told the AI not to rewrite for students.
So that's an example of how AI can be used in ways to sort of facilitate the learning experience and really powerfully being able to shape how students are interacting and learning with the AI tool. And so that Cogniti is a great example of that, and there's many other softwares that are available that are doing similar things to that. The other example I have in the last set of examples before we go for break, and you can have some tea, unless you've taken a break already, because you could always just stop the video, can't you? So here's one of the use of AI for presentations.
Hi Hi Ian, how are you? Where are you calling from today?
I'm doing great, thanks, and I'm in London. I've been looking forward to discussing this opportunity with you today.
Great stuff. If it's okay with you, I'd like to dive straight into it. Can you tell me about a product that you've launched that you're proud of and why?
Certainly. One of the products I'm most proud of is a mobile app that we designed to streamline online shopping for customers. It integrated AI-driven recommendations and a highly intuitive UI.
So that's an example of how AI can be used to generate videos in real time. And so that technology is out there in many different versions. And it also shows, when I applied for this job at University of Canberra, they had a staged interview process. The first was you send in your resume, which can be generated with AI. Then you do this interview in front of a camera, and it asks you questions, and it gives you time to respond. And the question is, well, that could be faked as well through the use of AI as a barrier there. And so, but really what I wanted to show with this example is that people who use presentations as an form of assessment, if you're not seeing the person give the presentation, you can't really assure that they are the one presenting that information to you. And so things that are online have this sort of challenge in the age of AI, and it's becoming more and more challenging. But I want to show you that this isn't new, right? This has actually been around for many years. This is an example of a deep fake video with Obama.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things. So, for instance, they could have me say things like, Killmonger was right, or Ben Carson is in the sunken place, or, how about this, simply, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. Now, you see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. That's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources. It may sound basic, but how we move forward in the age of information is going to be the difference between whether we survive or whether we become some kind of fucked up dystopia. Thank you, and stay woke, bitches.
And so that video was recorded 7 years ago. So 2019, it was around. And so just wanted to emphasize that this is not new technology. It's been around, but it's just more accessible now. And so here's an example of something that I've done, which is I did my research. Well, part of it was looking at diagnostic timelines and how long it takes for people to obtain a dementia diagnosis. And this was covered by ABC News. And here's an example of the original.
Dementia is now Australia's biggest killer, but new research has revealed alarming delays in diagnosis.
It takes, on average, about 3 years for people to get a diagnosis of dementia, specifically Alzheimer's disease.
The wait can be up to 5 years for other types of dementia, and experts say the consequences are grave.
Fundamentally, what they're missing out on is access to these services, their access to potential treatments, and also the ability to live at home for longer for those who are able to.
Researchers are calling for...
So that is an example of a snippet of a video from my research. Now I'm actually learning another language. I'm learning Tamil, the language my parents speak, and so my dad's brother, my uncle, who lives in Ireland, still is teaching me via Zoom. And I'm learning, I'm making progress, but I wouldn't be able at this stage to say everything I said in that video as fluently. However, with the use of AI, this can be possible. So here's an example.
மனநிலை குறைபாடு இப்போது ஆஸ்திரேலியாவின் மிகப்பெரிய கொலைக்கார நோயாக புதிய ஆய்வுகள் நோயறிதலில் அதிர்ச்சிகரமான தாமதங்களை வெளிப்படுத்தியுள்ளது.
மனநிலை குறைபாடு குறிப்பாக அல்சைமர்ஸ் நோயை கண்டறிய மக்களுக்கு சராசரியாக 3 ஆண்டுகள் ஆகிறது.
மற்ற மனநிலை குறைபாடுகளுக்கு நோயறிதல் பெறும் காத்திருப்பு 5 ஆண்டுகள் நீடிக்கலாம். இதன் விளைவுகள் மிகவும் தீவிரமானவை என நிபுணர்கள் கூறுகின்றனர்.
அவர்கள் இழக்கிற முக்கியமான விஷயம் இந்த சேவைகளுக்கான அணுகல், சாத்தியமான சிகிச்சைகளுக்கான வாய்ப்பு மற்றும் வீட்டில் நீண்ட காலம் வாழும் திறன் ஆகியவையாகும்.
And what I want to highlight in this video in terms of AI's effectiveness, in terms of allowing me to speak Tamil so fluently, is that it's not actually dubbing my voice here. So if you look at the mouth, the shape of the mouth changes with the sounds that are being made. So here's
சேவைகளுக்கான அணுகல், சாத்தியமான சிகிச்சைகளுக்கான வாய்ப்பு மற்றும் வீட்டில் நீண்ட காலம் வாழும் திறன் ஆகியவையாகும்.
So it's using the same voice, but it's not actually dubbing it. It's changing everything around the shape there. So it's using GenAI to create that change. And so I think that's a really powerful tool. I think it has a lot of utility and value when it comes to education, in terms of access to education. When I'm delivering a lecture, it could reach people from many different countries very easily using these tools to transcribe the software. But then also there's a number of challenges that have been documented in terms of interpretation and the nuances of different language and whether it's understood. But if you have a native speaker who's able to audit and check with the person who's generated it, that can also be a sort of quality assurance check through that. Okay, the last few videos I want to show you now is in relation to Sora. Sora is OpenAI. If you remember, that is the company that owns ChatGPT. And what I want to show you is what they've developed in Sora 2, which was in end of 2025. And this is text to video. So it's a text prompt that was provided to Sora, and the output is this video. Everything you're about to hear and see is AI generated, so nothing is real.
One year ago, Sora 1 redefined what was possible with moving images. Today, we're announcing the Sora app, powered by the all-new Sora 2. It's the most powerful imagination engine ever built. And it's packed with new features. I'll pass it to Bill for more details.
Now every video comes with sound.
Sora 2 is also the state-of-the-art for motion, physics IQ, and body mechanics, marking a giant leap forward in realism.
Introducing Cameo, giving you the power to step into any world or scene and letting your friends cast you in theirs.
So all of these images and visuals are just generated. They're not actually real. And so I think that's, although they've been trained on real data. And so what I want to show you as well is those people are real people. So Sam Altman at the start of that video, that's what he looks like. But he wasn't in that video. It was generated. He provided his image to Sora to use it in ways. So all of that was generated in the same way my mouth was generated through GenAI there. Let's go to a very cool example here. Is they did a blooper reel for this video. Again, all AI generated, but it's just a blooper of the video launch based on Sora 2.
What is this? There's no wind! This is supposed to be epic! Turn it up! Turn it up! There's too much wind in my hair! Cut! Really on there. Sorry.
Okay. Take 2.
Oh no. Kill the fan! Kill the fan! I can't do this anymore!
Keep rolling, keep rolling.
Want me to cut the fan? I'm done. I'm out. All right. Stand by for take. Bob rolling. Good. We're speeding.
Yep, that's me. Stop.
Keep rolling, keep rolling.
I'm good. That's the take.
This guy. He's the only director.
It's amazing, right? So all of these videos are just artificially generated through GenAI, although they're based on real people. So much so that there is a movie called The Quack that was the first movie generated using Sora 2 technology. So I thought I'd let you watch this movie, and through it you can see how it's been trained on different movies, especially in terms of the visuals from the 80s and the footage and the cuts and the way it looks. It's a really good example of how it can be used in different contexts.
Race after race! Gabriel gave them something to believe in! The people's champion, and a duck who carried him home!
Well, I love to race ducklings.
Come on, Gabriel,
I love it.
Ever since he was a kid, he wanted to be a duckling racer. His first word was quack. His second word was champion.
He wasn't fast at homework, but my God, the boy could ride a duck.
What to be when you're older?
The best in the world.
At 16, he was the best duckling racer in Sweden. And by 18, the world championship when he beat Thomas Dimson.
Look, if it was a one-time thing, I'd be like, okay. But the fact that he became the best in the world, it's an honor to have been beaten by Gabriel Peterson.
세계선수권 이후에 가브리엘은 더 좋아졌어요.
Basically overnight, he became an international superstar. And he just kept winning. He just kept winning.
I love to race duckling!
How you doing? Gabriel, this way! Over here, give us a look! Smile for us! Gabriel!
There was no question. He was the best duckling racer in the world, and then the quack.
Please clear the lanes. Clear lane 3, please.
They said I would never race again. You know what I told them? Quack, quack.
So that's part one. There's part two available. If you're interested, you can have a listen to and watch part two. I think what's interesting is it's an interesting example because it's so comical and humorous, because people racing ducklings or racing on top of them is not really based in reality. However, it has real implications for when these technologies can be used in reality for malicious intent. So we think of vulnerable people or populations, people who, elderly people who, previously the scams were on the phone. You'd call someone and they could take your money through transfers or whatnot, or access your computer. Now it's getting to the point where if someone was to call me on a number and I speak to them, they could use that and even all the videos I have available online of my lectures and content to generate my voice and use that voice to call a loved one of mine and ask them for personal information to access my bank account details. And this is something that we all need as education in terms of how it can be utilized and used and how to mitigate that. Are there things that would be asked in person would be asked over the phone, and the security checks that may need to be put in place to ensure to mitigate those things. But I think it's more of showing this video as a public service announcement of, hey, this is what the technology can do. You can be deceived in these ways, and so be critical of what you see, because no longer can the previous verifications and checks be adequate when it comes to what we see and hear and believe. So GenAI has a lot of utility and power, but also we should be wary of how it can be used by bad actors for malicious intents. Here is our last example before we break, which is of that Bayesian podcast.
So, I have to admit, when I first saw the topic for today, I hesitated.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you see a title with both Bayesian and statistics in it, and, the first reaction is maybe to run for the hills.
Or at least find a cat video. It sounds like the academic equivalent of eating raw vegetables.
Exactly. Without dip, it sounds like homework. But, and this is a really big but, as I got into the source material, I realized we're not actually looking at a math problem here.
Not really, no.
I mean, yes, there is math, but at its core, This feels more like a blueprint for thinking. It's like a manual for how to be less wrong over time.
That's the perfect way to frame it. If you strip away all the integrals and the Greek letters, Bayesian statistics is really just the mathematical version of common sense.
Okay.
It's a formal system for how we should, update our beliefs when the world gives us new information.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We are not going to make you derive formulas. We are not going to do calculus.
Yeah.
We just want to get to the heart of the Bayesian interpretation of probability.
Right.
Incredible, right? And I would argue that it's a bit more rapport between those two people in this context than there was in the podcast. So, and that podcast was generated, I think, about 6 months ago or 8 months ago, and so it shows you perhaps the models have gotten better in that time to allow for that more easy listening. I think they did a very good job of making it engaging and accessible for people. So this is really fascinating, and I think this is a really powerful tool for students or anyone who wanting to learn more about something. They can, if they don't have the time to sit down, they can listen to podcasts, they could create quizzes and flashcards. I think it's a real way to make education more accessible to many people. The challenge is when it gets it wrong, do people know how to push back and when to push back? And that's really what we're going to get into in the next next part of this workshop, which is how do these models work? What are their strengths and what are their biases that tie into how they're developed and trained and moving from there. So in saying that, take a break, go get a cup of tea, go stretch your legs, and we'll be back very shortly with the next part. So hope you've enjoyed those demonstrations. When I do this part of the workshop in person, I get very excited by some of these demonstrations, but in the break after, when I have conversations with people, there is this feeling of overwhelmed sometimes. There's this doom and gloom aspect of what does the world look like in this age of AI. I think the key takeaway is it's important that you know what all of it is capable of, and this is a large selection of videos and examples. And the reason why I'm showing so many examples is just show you the different use cases of how it can be used and in what ways. So the more you know, I think the better you are in being a critical thinker when it comes to learning about AI. You'll be even more of a critical thinker in the next video. So take a break and I'll see you guys very soon.